from down under Australia. Welcome to David NAIR on Air. Ladies and gentlemen, I have great privilege in sharing this platform with another gentleman that I've known for some time. But before I bring him on board, let me welcome the audience who are from different parts of the globe. People from India, Australia, South Africa, UAE, US, Canada, UK, Europe, and Malaysia. Welcome each one of you to this channel so you could have some knowledge of extra knowledge, I should say, of what is happening in different sectors of performance excellence. At the end of the event, the broadcast is going to be telecasted, and at the same time, it will be on our YouTube channels for you to go back and have a look at. If you do have any questions, do not hesitate to send an email to support@davidnair.net. That's support@davidnair.net. Ladies and gentlemen, David NAIR is a peak performance coach, keynote speaker, author of a book titled IXL, Wired for Success. My key purpose of bringing a lot of the top performers online and on air for conversations is primarily to ensure I could fulfill my personal purpose. Now, that's being very selfish, a lot of people might say, but the key purpose that I'm doing this for is to make a mindset shift, heart set shift, and a soul set shift in 1 million people across the globe, leaving behind a legacy of hope. And I consider hope to be help other people evolve. HOPE. Now, what we are doing is ensuring that we can search the globe to get the best of the best in different topics. In the last number of weeks, you would have seen performers and speakers from ranging from the UN policy decision makers down to people who have been triathlon gold medalists, up to people who have been blind judges from Michigan, up to people who are governors with the royal family. And at the same time, I'm here still searching with my team, looking for the best to bring in the oncoming weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have one of the best speakers that I've seen in this particular platform. My heart goes out to a subject that I've been very close to, that's NLP and hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. Today we have the pleasure of inviting a close friend and associate by the name of Muneer, who is an international exceptional performance speaker. He has been operating and working in 15 different countries and touched people from 70 different nationalities. Ladies and gentlemen, a powerful speaker, one that's going to address the topic of hypnosis with us. Let me welcome on board Muneer.
Hi, David.
How are you?
I am amazing. I'm amazing. It's such a pleasure to be here, such an honor to be here with someone like yourself who is so interested in HOPE. And I honor you, my friend, and I share that vision because I love to help people that make an impact. So yeah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. I know we've got a 45 to 15 minutes to cram in, so I'm going to go straight into the topic so we can start rolling things out. Muneer, I would like you to sort of globally touch on this aspect of hypnosis, why people are so frightened about this term, so to speak, and then we can pursue into deep diving into other subjects within it.
Yeah, sure. Look, there's a lot of misconceptions about hypnosis, what hypnosis is, what hypnosis isn't. Is hypnosis even real, or is it something in the movies? What is it used for other than what you see in the movies? There's a whole bunch of misconceptions. And to be very honest with you, I had a lot of those misconceptions. You know, actually, I remember when I first started learning hypnosis, I was like, ooh, I am going to be almighty and powerful. Unfortunately, you know, I started learning hypnosis because I wanted to try and get my wife to do certain things, and I started to realize there are certain limitations and there's certain things that you only find in the movies. But then again, I'm still studying just to see if I can get to that level where I can have people under my control. But right. I wanted to, yeah. So it's like you said, I wanted to come and we can talk about some of the myths and what hypnosis is and isn't. So,
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to answer?
Now, is hypnosis real? Let me just start off with that basic. Is hypnosis real?
Okay. So, is hypnosis real? Now, yes, 100% hypnosis is real. It's an everyday experience that everybody experiences. You see, what will happen is someone will come to me and they say, "Oh, you know what? I've never been hypnotized." The reality is, it's like someone coming to me and saying, "I have never exercised." Just because a person has never been to the gym, it doesn't mean that you've never exercised. Because if you've walked, if you've carried shopping bags, you've done a little bit of exercise, right? Everything
Yes.
is kind of exercise, like in that sense. And the same with hypnosis, everything is kind of hypnosis. The only difference is if you went to a gym, you do a lot of things in a short, compressed space of time.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
And that's the same with hypnosis. We do natural things that occur, but we do it in a shorter space of time. So we stack things upon each other to get a bigger results. Just like exercise in a gym, you do natural things, but we stack it. We increase the intensity so that you get a bigger result. So hypnosis is 100% real. Why do I say that it's real? You, David, have an unconscious mind as well as a conscious mind. I have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. For example, right now, you're nodding your head, right? When we were talking, you were nodding your head and even you smiled. Did you actually tell your brain, head move side to side, or head move side to side, or lips go up? No. There's an autopilot part of your mind that handles a lot of these things, right?
Yes.
And so hypnosis is about speaking to your unconscious mind or your autopilot. And we all have an autopilot. We all have an autopilot. Otherwise, you wouldn't survive, right?
Yes.
Your brain would be overloaded because you'd literally have to say, head nod, down, up, right hand move up. You know, we can't, our brain can't process all of these things all of the time. So with hypnosis, yes, it's 100% real. Is it what you think it is? That is a separate question, because a lot of people think hypnosis is something that it isn't. They think of hypnosis as I'm under your control kind of thing, but that's very not that is very untrue. If people have meditated, guess what? That's a form of hypnosis.
Exactly.
It's a form of hypnosis. It's a natural. If you've gone to the cinema and you stopped paying attention to the people in front of you, guess what? You were hypnotized to a certain degree. If you've ever played a game and you're looking at pictures and sounds on a screen, and the car goes to the right and you go like this, you've been hypnotized.
Yep.
So everybody has been hypnotized to a certain degree in one way or another. So yes, hypnosis is very, very real. It's just not what it is in the movies. And just like, how do I put it? Like a fight, you know, if someone has a little bit of a scuffle, in the movies, it's very exaggerated, right? If somebody overcomes a little bit of a challenge, people overcome challenges every day, but when people make a movie, they exaggerate things. And that's the same with hypnosis. In movies, they exaggerate it. Also, a stage show is a different kind of exaggeration, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So
Sure. Now, I know you just touched on the unconscious and the conscious. I'd like you to deep dive a little bit into that, primarily because there's a lot of people out in the mass out there, they understand this term, the unconscious state, the subconscious mind. Can you just distinguish between those two, the differences there?
Okay, cool. So your conscious mind is the part of your mind that is the critical thinking part. Okay, if you needed to calculate things, if you needed to analyze certain things, if you needed to process in the here and now, that's what your conscious mind is responsible for. Okay,
Right.
Your conscious mind is limited in certain things, but it's also got its uses. It's think of having a computer. You have your hard disk and you have your RAM. Your RAM is like the short-term memory that helps you do quick tasks. But then you also have your long-term memory, which is your hard disk. In your brain, your unconscious mind has your memories. It has your emotions. It has your habits. It has so much more. So let me ask you this. If someone thinks that, oh, but I don't have, or I've never been hypnotized, or I don't have a conscious, unconscious mind. Here's the reality, right? Have you ever wanted to do something like, or you wanted to quit something, but there's a part of you that also wants to do it? Have you ever said, no, I shouldn't eat cake, but there's a part of you that wants to eat cake? Guess what? You have a conflict. Your conscious mind is telling you one thing, your unconscious mind is saying another. This is why some people have trouble quitting smoking, right? Because consciously they're processing, it makes logical sense that yes, I need to quit smoking. But as a habit, which is an unconscious habit, people are smokers. So there's a bit of a conflict. This is what happens. So understanding both your conscious mind and your unconscious mind is very, very powerful in terms of helping you to get results. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'd like to elaborate on this subconscious or the unconscious state that a person could get into once they play with the unconscious mind, because many do not understand the potential of the subconscious or the unconscious mind, and a few of them just understand a little bit about it and they do not utilize it to maximum usage. Just elaborate on that, Al.
So let's talk about state, right? And when we talk about hypnosis and a hypnotic state, you have been so many of you have been into a hypnotic state. Okay, it is very natural. In fact, it's one of the most amazing most amazing and productive states that is possible. Why is that? It's because your conscious mind and your unconscious mind, when they are aligned, when they're going in the same direction, that can create a hypnotic state. I'll give you a couple of examples. And David, you will be my proxy for the audience, okay?
Great.
So David, have you ever started to read a book and you get distracted, and you think of something and you're like, oh my God, I need to do this. And then you just reread the same few lines over and over again. And it takes you 1 hour to read 2 pages. Have you ever had a state like that?
In a very early stage of my reading, yes.
Okay, yeah. And have you ever done that in other areas of your life? Maybe you're working and you're typing. You've written a number of things. When you've written a book, maybe you're writing, but sometimes you're not in a flow. Your mind is all over the place, and it takes you a couple of hours to write 1 page. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. On the flip side, have you ever had a time in your life where you were just in the flow, like nothing else mattered? You were just reading, or writing, and within 1 hour you did 4 days of work? Have you ever experienced that?
Very much so, of recent times, and that's what I call being in the zone.
Exactly. The zone is a trance state. Let me tell you, if you're a dancer, if someone is a dancer, when somebody dances, are they telling their arm lift up, right hand down? No, they are in a trance state. Your conscious and unconscious are aligned and your body just flows. When someone is racing, if you go to an Olympic racer, right, and you talk to them and you say, what happens? Ready, set, go. And it'll be like tunnel vision. They're not thinking of laundry. They're not thinking of, should I call Bob next week? They're not thinking of, I hope I don't miss Muneer on 10 News Live. They're not thinking anything like that.
Yes.
It is a singular focused state of attention where all of your mind, your conscious and unconscious, is focused on one thing. That is a trance state. And so Yeah, so Dipali is asking, what's the advantage of being in a hypnotic state? So a trance state, so let's just talk about the trance state for now. When you have a trance state, you are more productive. You are going to get a lot more done. Just like with David's example, you'd write, 4 days of work within an hour. You'd read chapters within an hour.
Yeah.
Sorry, you wanted to say something, David?
Yeah, I was, because that's the time when you've got synchronicity. That's the term I use, where the two are in sync, that nothing can break it, and that bondage just creates this tsunami of massive things flowing through. Am I right?
100%. And I give the example of athletes. You ask any athlete about when they've been in the zone, and they will describe a trance state that is so powerful. Because a lot of people think of a trance state as it can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's all of your mind focused on one thing. It's like saying, when you have 5 people work on something, you're going to get a lot more power to one thing. It's the same with your mind. When you have all of your brain focused on one thing, you're going to achieve so much more. And it doesn't just have to be an athlete. I've asked accountants. When an accountant gets into the numbers on an Excel sheet, and it's like if someone comes and talks to them, they are zoned out.
Yes.
David, you've been around kids. I mean, before, right? Have you ever seen a kid watch TV?
Very much so.
That is a trance state. It's a 100% trance state. I mean, we do it as adults as well. It's a 100% trance state. So
and see, let me ask you this question: is it possible? Well, why I'm driving this question is I'm looking for excellence. Okay, is it possible when you have in this trance state, after you conditioned yourself, you can then have this mastery of excellence coming out? Now, excellence is not being perfect. Excellence is whether you're a 6 out of 10 now, tomorrow you become a 7 out of 10. Now, that can move a person up the ladder. What's your take on that?
So, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. But let me describe it in a different way. If you have your conscious mind and unconscious mind, if they are conflicted, if your conscious mind and unconscious mind are against each other, one wants to concentrate and one isn't concentrating, are you going to be as productive as if your conscious mind and unconscious mind are aligned, as in they're going in the same direction? Which one's going to be more powerful?
Obviously the latter.
Yeah, when your conscious mind and unconscious mind work together, you're going to get more done. You are going to operate at a peak performance level.
Yep.
You are tapping into all of your power. So it's versus where if your conscious mind and unconscious mind are against each other. And this happens with all of us all the time. Why do I say that? Have you ever said, oh, I want to be successful as a speaker, but I'm scared of what people might think? That's your conscious mind and unconscious mind working against each other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a misalignment. Have you ever said, I want to lose weight, but I really want cake? That's your conscious mind and unconscious mind against each other. But on the flip side, we've all experienced times where nothing else matters, and all of our brain focus, all of our brain energy is focused on achieving one singular task, and that is so powerful. Yeah.
That's the state we want people to get to for productivity to go up in any form. Okay. Now, what's your take on this unconscious consciousness?
Unconscious consciousness,
which means you have mastered that skill.
Yes.
And it's second nature now. And in becomes second nature, you're in that zone and you're in synchronity with it. And when you're in sync, man, the tsunami can't stop you with anything. That's the problem. What's your take on that?
So so with getting to an unconsciously conscious state where you are amazing at a number of things. Let's talk about a skill, a particular skill. Okay. Let's say driving. David, do you drive?
Very much so.
Okay. At one point in time, you did not know how to drive. Am I right?
Yep. Yep.
When you first started learning how to drive, okay, all those weeks ago, because you're very young and you just started learning.
I'm only 92, but you know, at 16 years old at heart.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So when you first started learning how to drive, you would consciously, you'd have to think, okay, I have to put, what's first gear? I have to do this with my feet. I have to, etc. And you're trying to remember everything.
Yep.
Every single one of us has to go through these stages when we learn how to do anything. In fact, and then at one point it becomes so natural that we don't even think about it. It just happens. And I will give you an example that is relevant to everybody on this call. Once upon a time, you were unable to walk. You were unable to stand. You'd stand and then you'd wobble and you'd fall. You'd stand again, you'd wobble and you'd fall. And then you took your first step. And then you took your second, and you'd look around you and you'd be like, I want to walk like all these people. And you kept going and you fell a number of times until you could not just walk, you could run. You could travel the world. You could jump. You could do all sorts of things. Every single one of us. And now, if I told you to come to walk down the street or run or hop or whatever it is, so many of you, every one of you can do this without having to think about it consciously. It is unconscious competence.
Exactly.
Because you've done it so many times. And this is and I like that you bring this up, because we judge ourselves so much and we're so afraid of making mistakes that we don't try new things. But this is how we become amazing at anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, David, I mean, you've seen, I've gone live every single day on my YouTube channel for 300 and whatever. It's about 335 days in a row, going live every single day. Why did I do it? Because I wanted to great at naturally speaking. And so I forced myself to be uncomfortable, to make mistakes, so that I could now become unconsciously competent, just like you're talking about. Yeah. So
and see, that mastery only comes when you have repeated practices, so it becomes into this unconscious state. But many 100%. People realize that, you know, in today's in some of the scenarios today, most people are saying, okay, I want a shortcut to success. Now, you cannot get a shortcut to success unless you master the skill. And it depends. Some people can master the skill very quickly. Some might take a bit longer. But that mastery is vital. It's not important. It's vital to step up.
It's vital. And making mistakes is vital. It's vital. Exactly. I mean, I've even done a couple of videos online where I started 2 days after I started learning how to juggle. And I said, look, I'm just learning how to juggle. And every single time I'd start, I was dropping the balls. And I'd have to bend over and pick it up, and bend over and pick it up, and bend over. And I was saying that, and I showed it live just because I wanted people to understand that this is the process of learning anything. You have to make those mistakes in order to become good at it. And here's a little bonus little show. Da, da, da.
I love it.
And I swear to you, you can go onto my YouTube channel and you see the first few times that I ever tried it, and I would drop the ball every single time. So yeah, this is how you become. And am I thinking I can't? You can't juggle consciously. You can't say right hand to the right, left hand to the left. Your unconscious has to do it. And that's why it's a good exercise that I started.
And it's interesting, you know, now because there are a lot of people that are watching who are striving to be speakers and wanting to be authors and the rest. Now, the key element out of that is, you know, the basic lesson is to master the skill such that it becomes second nature. That's the bottom line we're talking about. When it becomes second nature, we can then scale up to the next level and then master that skill for it to be second nature and keep moving up. And that's what excellence is all about. It is not a one-time quick jab and I'm successful tomorrow. Nay, it doesn't work that way. And my point that I'm striving is to bring people like you, bring people like Justice Bernstein, who was a blind judge, and showcase that to the public out there and say, hey, listen, if a blind man can turn around and put 25 cases a week, and if a person like Muneer can turn around and do these things, why can't the person who's out there do it? All it takes is practice, practice, practice to master it. Am I correct?
100%. 100%.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next topic of trying to get. Can anybody be hypnotized?
Anybody can be hypnotized. Look, the reality is, can anybody be hypnotized in the way that you think they can be hypnotized? And that's no. But can anybody be hypnotized? Of course. You are already hypnotized. Everyone is already hypnotized on a daily basis. However, if you think that hypnosis is something that it isn't, then you probably won't be able to be hypnotized.
Exactly.
So I'll give you a couple of examples, right? Can anybody meditate? Sorry, let me just read this. What is the methodology to achieve the synergy between let me come back to that, Dipali. I'd love to answer that. But before that, let's talk about can anyone be hypnotized? If it's like saying, can anybody meditate, right? The reality is, what I've found is some people will like going into a calm meditating state. Okay, you can go into a kind of thing. Some people can't do that because they find their mind is all over the place. But someone else could go and they could dance, and when they're dancing, they're in a trance-like state. Their body is moving, and that's a different kind of trance. So everybody can go into a state of trance, a state of hypnosis, and you do already. But some people may have a method that works better for them than others. Okay,
right.
And what the misconception that people can't be hypnotized, I'll tell you where it comes from, is a stage hypnosis show. Okay, in a stage hypnosis show, what the hypnotist on the stage is looking for is somebody that is more animated, because that's funnier. They're looking for someone that's animated and someone that responds faster than somebody else. Milton Erickson, who's the father of modern hypnotherapy, he used to say that was it him or Richard Bandler who created NLP? They basically they said that there's no such thing as a bad hypnotic subject, just a bad hypnotist.
Yes,
because you have just an inflexible hypnotist, because you have to find what method works for different people. Just different people have different methods. In a stage hypnosis show, they're looking for one specific thing, and that's why they choose certain people. If they haven't chosen you, doesn't mean you can't be hypnotized. It just means that you're not going to be the best person for who wants to be wild on a stage, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean that you don't have an unconscious mind. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to benefit from a different form of trance. It might also mean that you're just uncomfortable being on a stage, and that's totally fine.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you can't be hypnotized, because a stage hypnosis show is selective, and it needs to be, because it's an entertainment show. It needs to be very selective about specific people that they need. Does that make sense?
Excellent. Yeah, very true. And when Milton Erickson started his work with as a cripple on a wheelchair, he utilized everything that he could, and that's basically where Richard and both John went to get their source. Now, when we look at how Milton Erickson played with his hypnotic movements and behavior patterns, it is a mastery because he utilized that for his medicine practice, MBBS.
Yes.
And that's the power it has.
100%.
And it's legit. Yeah, it's legit completely for cures.
If, by the way, if somebody says, like if someone thinks that maybe they can't be hypnotized, well, the reality is if you watch TV, you can be hypnotized.
Yes.
You're being entertained by pictures and sounds because you're connecting to it using your imagination.
Yes.
So it's just another form. It's another form of a hypnotic trance.
Exactly. That's great. Would you like to address Dipali's question there?
Yes. Can you repeat the? I don't know if we can bring
the methodology to achieve. Yeah, here it is. What's the methodology to achieve the synergy between the two states we're talking about?
Okay, so the methodology is hypnosis and getting into a hypnotic trance. There are different ways to get into a trance. Whether meditation is one of them. That's why people like to go into meditation, because they're achieving a bit of a synergy. That's one method. There are other methods. Why do people like to dance? Because dancing is a way to align your conscience. Have you ever seen anybody that's dancing and in their mind they're going, oh, I wonder what Bob is doing for dinner. I wonder what I should be wearing tomorrow. Like nobody, like your mind is aligned. So there are multiple entrances. There are what I do fast inductions, fast hypnotic inductions. Those are not another way to get into a state of trance. There are other ways, like a shock. Do you know the reason that the FBI or CIA, when they go and they go after a hardened criminal, a criminal that is going to fight no matter what they throw something called a stun gun, right? Like a stun grenade that throws a loud bang that shakes a person. Why do they do that? Because when you scare someone and then you go, get down, 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 even before they think, what happened is they're telling their unconscious, your unconscious mind, when you've been scared, you become alert. All of your brain's resources have to focus on one thing. So it's like, get down. The hardened criminal will, without thinking, they'll get down.
They'll duck. Yes.
They'll get down, even though if you went in and you knocked nicely and you said, hello, we're the FBI, then he'll take out his gun and he'll start to fight. But when he's shocked, when you shock the system, that's another way into a different kind of trance, which is all of your mind focused on one thing. And there's lots of other ways. There's brainwave entertainment, like binaural beats. There's music that just synchronizes your brain so that while you're reading or you're focusing on something, it just helps you to align your brainwave activity. So
that's one of the key things. That's one of the key things that we actually play around. If you notice some of the start of any of my talks that I've done, whether it's on platform or on a one-to-one speaking platform as keynote speaker, I used to always have this cliche: what happens to your body when music plays, and that thing just rock and roll, and then people are wondering, my God, what the hell is this guy doing?
I remember. I've seen that. I've experienced that.
Yeah, so that's getting a person in the state of trance. Yeah. Now, once you get into that state of trance, what do we do to take it up to the next level, Pal? About excellence. That's the second part of the question.
Okay, so we've addressed a couple of parts of hypnosis. Okay, what is like when you talk about hypnosis? It's typically made of two aspects. One is the trance state. Okay,
Yes.
that's where your conscious mind and unconscious mind is aligned. That's what we've been talking about so far.
Yeah.
The second aspect is the hypnotic language. Okay, the language of persuasion. Now, just so you know, again, the language of persuasion, again, it's very natural, and a lot of people use it every day without realizing it. In fact, when I share with you some of the words of hypnotic language, you'll be like, oh my God, really? I never thought of that, because you use those same exact words every single day at the moment. So to give you an idea, I'll tell you about a Harvard study they did in the 70s. So at Harvard University, David, I know that you're very young, you're 16 and everything, but do you remember once upon a time when people had libraries?
Yes, they still do in some parts of the world. Come on.
Okay, good. And in these libraries, when people used to go to libraries to do research, because it's the 70s, they had lots of photocopy machines, because
Yes.
that was your primary source of information. You'd go to the library, you'd find books, you'd photocopy them. You know what I mean, right, David?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Very much so.
Yeah. So what they did is, in the 70s, they conducted a study where they would ask, there used to be long lines for these photocopy machines, because that's how everybody got their information. It wasn't sort of a press the print button. Everyone would have to go and use the same photocopier. So you can imagine at Harvard University, they have these long lines of people. They wanted to see if they could cut into the front of the line. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is, in the Arab world, we call it wasta, but it's kind of like, bakshish, let me come in, So, 3 phrases that they asked. They had 3 different groups. The first group, that went and said, without any excuse at all, okay, no excuse at all. They just said, "Hi, can I cut in the line?" Right? Those people were successful 63% of the time.
Right.
Okay, 63% of the time. No excuse. I mean, still quite high, but no excuse at all. 63% of the time. The second group would go to the front of the line and they'd say, "Excuse me, can I cut in the line because I'm really in a rush? I have to go somewhere." First, yeah. So this the second group. They had a valid reason. Okay,
Right.
They had a valid reason. Those people were successful 94% of the time. Okay.
Wow.
So if you have a very good reason, 94% of the time. If you have no reason at all, 60% of the time, 63% of the time. Okay, check this out. The third group went in with the worst excuse in the whole world. In fact, it was such a bad excuse, it would upset people, because they would go to the front of the line and they'd say, "Hi, can I cut in the line because I have to make photocopies?" Everyone in this line is there to make photocopies. Like what excuse is that? Every single person in the line has to make photocopies. So, David, what percent of people do you think were successful in this time? Remember, 94 when they had an amazing excuse, 63% when they had the worst excuse. When they had no excuse was 63% of the time. What percent do you think was successful when they had the worst excuse in the world?
Option 3, worst excuse.
Yeah. And what percentage do you think they were successful?
Oh, what percentage? Probably about 80%, 80, 90%.
80%. Yeah. Well, okay. So here's the thing, right? Remember, when they had a very good excuse, they were successful 94% of the time. When they had no excuse at all, 60% of the time, 63%. When they had the worst excuse, when they said, "Excuse me, can I cut in the line because I have to make photocopies?" they were successful 93% of the time. Just 1% less.
God.
1% less. Why is that? Because our brain likes to justify things. Our brain likes to justify things. So when we talk about hypnotic language, it's nothing magical. It's just putting things the way that our brain likes to receive it. Our brain likes to have a reason for things. So if you use the word because, it's going to take your persuasion up from 63% to 93%. Does it mean that you're going to get a result every time? No.
No.
But is it going to increase your chances? Yes.
Yes.
And that's what hypnosis is about. And now I want to share with you one word. There are a lot of hypnotic words. There are a lot of hypnotic phrases. Can I share another one for the parents?
Please.
Okay. And here's a hypnotic technique. Guess what? Are you going to hypnotize your kids by using this language? In some form, yes, you're going to be more persuasive. But are they going to do it 100%? No, but you're going to increase your chances a lot. So here's another example. If you go to your kids and you say, clean your room. Not so lucky. If you tell your kids, hey guys, do you want to clean your room and then brush your teeth, or would you prefer to brush your teeth and then clean your room? They'll go, I'll brush my teeth and then clean my room. Either way, you win. You see, these are some of the foundations of hypnotic language. You're just helping to say things in ways that are more persuasive. Salespeople are taught this all the time. Guess what? Salespeople are taught some hypnotic language all the time. They just don't realize it's called hypnotic language. What is powerful is when someone is in a trance and you're using hypnotic language, then you get a very amazing, powerful effect. And that's what we're talking about here. Is it guaranteed? No. But as with everything, we're talking about increasing your chances. Everything is about how do we take your chances from 5% success rate to 10% success rate, then to 15% success rate, then to 30% success rate, then to 50% success rate. How do we get your success rate higher? And that's what all of this is about. That's what this language is about.
The power of understanding and appreciating the right language to use in the context that you want it to go out, and then make the impact.
Exactly.
Right.
David,
go on.
Oh, I was going to say, this might be a good opportunity to actually share. Like I said, I create a gift for everybody. If anybody wants to.
I was just going to ask you about that. That's what I had next in mind. Yeah, go ahead on that gift. Yeah.
Yeah. So just in case anybody's interested in how hypnotic language works, I've actually created a free infographic that will share with you. I think there's 9 or 11 of the very hypnotic power phrases that you can start to use to increase your persuasion. So I've created an infographic. It's absolutely free. I wanted to give it to all your viewers, David. And so I created a link. I don't know if you guys can pull up the link. It's bit.ly, bit.ly.
Yes, here it is.
/hypno words. So if you just go over there, enter your email address, and you'll get it straight away, and you can start to look at and start to understand hypnotic language at another level. So so definitely wanted to give that as a gift to all of you guys. It'll truly help you to understand how language can affect how we think. So
it's vital. It's vital. Thank you so much for that, and really appreciate your generosity in this, Muneer. Moving down further, I'm moving down, as you can see, being a very, very choleric, melancholic. Can someone make you do something in this hypnotic state, or are you in control of it totally during that state?
Yeah, and that's a very, very good question. I learned this the hard way when I was when I was experimenting. No, you can't really make anybody do that something that they don't want to do. You can suggest a lot of things. People can lie in hypnosis. No one has to tell the truth. All of these things are big myths. No one is really in your control. Now, how it works is, even on a stage hypnosis show, what happens is a person gives permission to the hypnotist and then comes on the stage. Usually, if you go into a trance, you're giving some form of permission to the hypnotist to work with you. They can ask you questions that will pull up memories, etc., all sorts of things. So you can't make anybody say anything or make anybody do anything. However, you are more persuasive. So I give you the best example of this is if you go to the cinema, right? If you go to the cinema, is anybody forcing you to watch? No, you can turn away. A lot of people will, if they really, really, really don't like it, they can get up and walk out. Some people, but what happens more often than not is you've gone to the cinema, you've decided to watch the movie, and so you allow yourself to be engrossed, right? If you wanted to, you could say, I'm not going to watch. I am in control. I am not going to look at the screen. I am in control. You could do it, but it's more natural to just go with the flow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now you can have some hypnotists that can suggest certain ideas to you and a whole bunch of things, and they can make you consider things that you don't want to consider, but that can also happen in real life. Like, you don't need to be in a trance. You could meet somebody and they could say something mean to you, and that can happen in real life. It's not it hasn't got anything to do with hypnosis. And they will make you consider things, but you are in control to a very, very large degree with hypnosis. And typically, when you go to a hypnotist, you're giving them permission to work with you on stuff.
Exactly. Up front, they do that anyway in a lot of cases.
Yes.
Now, can we just drill down into a question? Why tell a hypnotic story? Why hypnotists tell a hypnotic story?
Yeah. So I personally, I love hypnotic stories. So this is my kind of something I'm very, very passionate about. Right. Stories in their own right are hypnotic.
Right.
Okay? Why is a story hypnotic? Because if you go to somebody, have you ever tried to give somebody advice and they just don't take it? You know, you say, you know what, you should be doing this. No. And people are like, yeah, yeah, you're right, and yeah, whatever. But
it's like going into one ear and out the other.
Yes, because you have told them what to do, and so it's not, it's got less power. What is very powerful is if someone comes up with an idea themselves.
Yes.
Okay. How can you get someone to come up with an idea themselves? By planting the seed within a story. So what happens is, if you tell somebody some advice, they will say, yeah, no, maybe, I don't know. They'll question it. Why? Because their conscious mind, their critical critical thinking starts to analyze, is this right? Should I do this? Can I do this? Will this work? It already starts to question everything and starts to tear it apart before you even had a chance to give the full benefit. But as soon as you say something like, once upon a time, what happens? Our critical thinking goes out the window. You're like, it's a story. I don't need to question it. It's a story. It has nothing to do with me. And then within the story, you could have somebody, a wise man, give somebody advice. And then when the wise man gives somebody advice, the person that's listening to the story goes, That's kind of a good idea. I think I should, you know what, maybe I'll do that. It's their idea. They own it. They own the idea.
Right.
So you have helped to create a context in which someone will do something because it's their own idea. They own it. And so stories, like movies, I've talked about movies a lot because movies are hypnotic. They move you. Emotions are unconscious territory. You know, your emotions come from your unconscious mind. So if you're tapping into emotions, if a movie taps into emotions, they're tapping into your unconscious. If you're telling a story, you're tapping into someone's unconscious as well.
Powerful, very powerful. Let's come down into tips. Many are talking about the stories. Now, there are a lot of listeners who are looking at it and saying, you know, how can I talk as well and do certain things as well and tell stories as well? What are some tips that you could give to provide a hypnotic story?
Okay, so
4 tips to do that.
The first one is understanding hypnotic language. That's why I created that the giveaway, by the way, which is bit.ly/hypnowords.
Thank you.
That, you know, the first part is understanding hypnotic language and how it affects people's minds. So that's the first part. And you start to weave hypnotic language in a story. The second part is understanding story structure. So if you want to tell any story, then understanding how stories are actually, like how powerful stories are made, what are the elements within any powerful stories is going to be very helpful. So I'll give you an example. There's a book called Hero with 1,000 Faces. Okay. And it describes every movie has this same sort of structure. If you look at Star Wars, if you look at any Pixar movie, any hero movie, Lord of the Rings, every single movie follows this same structure. And you have somebody that's living in an ordinary world and they get called to do something greater. They resist at first, and then they find a mentor, and the mentor gives them advice. Now, understand story structure. So, at its most basic form, you need someone who the story is about, the hero. You need a challenge that they go up against. Okay, and it can be a villain, it can be the weather, it can be their emotions, it can be whatever. But you need some challenge that they have. And you need this sort of conflict that happens. Now, if you are telling a story, my third tip is, if you're telling a hypnotic story, let's say I wanted to tell a hypnotic story because I want to help somebody, I want to give somebody advice, okay? Find out what advice you'd like to give, and within the story, get one of the characters to give that advice to your hero, a wise man. So let's say I want you to, I don't know, work on your habits. Okay, let's say that's something I'd want to do. So I'd tell a story where, you know, I remember my friend Bob. He was going through a hard time, and he just kept worrying about the results that he got. And then he went out to his uncle, his uncle's a super successful, wealthy businessman. His uncle said to him, "You are a result of your habits. So I want you to work on your habits every single day, because if you don't work on your habits, you are not going to get anywhere."
Right.
And his uncle was very successful. So do you see what I've done over here? I've found a wise person within the story, a successful person, a person of authority. And the person of authority gives the advice. But when I'm giving the advice, I'm looking at you. I'm telling you the advice. And then all of a sudden, I haven't told you to keep habits. My friend's uncle told him. But when you think about it, you're like, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. And then it's your idea.
You've just embedded that into the story such that it takes ownership of it, and then he just runs with it, or she runs with it.
Yeah, exactly. It can be. It's very, very, very powerful in that regard.
Right. That's powerful, pal. Listen, I want you to cover a couple of very quick, short snippet cases, of work that you've done, without mentioning names, of what was the issue, a quick process you went through, and what was the outcome.
Oh, I mean, I've helped people to quit smoking. So, someone has come to me and told me that they have challenges with quitting smoking. And, I put them into a bit of a trance, and I talk to them. Like when someone's in a trance, I talk to them. I ask them questions. For them, they're like, but I was awake. No, you weren't awake. If you are sitting there going and telling me, well, I see a path that goes to the left. That's not normal talk. Do you see? And so I would go into people's imagination, because imagination is an unconscious territory. I help people discover their best selves through trancey conversations. I'd love to do a demonstration with you at another point in time. I think we're probably going to be running out of time today.
But we will bring you back in a few months, Muneer. I'm going to bring you back, because there's so much that's untapped. We only skied the surface here today. But
100%,
please, please continue what you're there.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, because one awesome thing that I've recently started to do and work with people on is helping them with their metaphors inside of their mind. So, and basically, what do I mean by metaphors? David, let me ask you this. When you are at your best, you're a little like what?
When I'm at my best, I'm a little like Tony Robbins.
And Tony Robbins. And so if I wanted to, I could start to unpack this thread and start to say, okay, why are you like Tony Robbins, and find out so much more about you because of the metaphors that you use in your mind.
Yes.
And that's very, very powerful. Some people will say, I'm like an eagle, I'm like an arrow going for its target, or whatever. And I can unpack so much. And maybe we could do a whole session on the symbols that are in your mind and what they represent, and how to understand yourself so much more. So
fabulous. Very quickly, to round up, a little bit about your book, The Power of Persuasion.
Yes. So,
30 seconds or so, very quickly.
So my book, Power of Persuasion, is Confessions of a Hypnotist, door-to-door salesman and marketer. It's all about how to persuade more effectively. It's all about how to understand unconscious responses to what do we respond to, so that we can become more persuasive in whatever field that you are in. So, yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous. Muneer, I'm really thrilled to have had you here, and I'm sure the audience would, those who are seeing live and those that are working with us hereafter, would get so much of benefit from this. And I can guarantee you, we will bring you back in a couple of months to drill down further one aspect of this topic, this large topic that we've never touched it. We've only skied the top of the surface. Pal, truly appreciate your help. Once again, thank you so much to take time off. I know you're rushing off for another session with a group. Thank you once again, and we will talk to you soon, Muneer.
It's my absolute pleasure. David, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to coming back and serving your audience again very soon. Thank you all so much. My pleasure, and have some hypnotic dreams. Thank you.
God bless you. Ciao for now. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.